It was a quiet Tuesday night when I found myself working the closing shift at the local grocery store. The aisles were empty, and the store had a hushed, almost eerie atmosphere. I was restocking shelves when I noticed a man entering the store. He was tall, with a hood pulled low over his face, making it difficult to see his features. At first, I thought nothing of it. People often came in late to grab a few last-minute items, but as I continued to work, I noticed he wasn't picking up any groceries. Instead, he seemed to be following me, always keeping a few aisles away. Whenever I moved, he moved. My unease grew with each passing minute. I decided to confront him, hoping to dispel my fear. As I approached, he turned and disappeared down another aisle. I quickened my pace, but when I rounded the corner, he was gone. I checked the security cameras but saw no sign of him leaving the store. Feeling a chill run down my spine, I continued my duties, trying to shake off the unsettling feeling. Suddenly, the lights flickered, and I heard a noise from the back storage area. Heart pounding, I grabbed a box cutter for protection and cautiously made my way towards the sound. As I entered the storage room, the lights flickered again, casting eerie shadows. The room was filled with tall shelves, creating narrow, maze-like pathways. I called out, but there was no response. The silence was deafening. Just as I was about to turn back, I heard a whisper behind me. "You shouldn't be here." I spun around, but there was no one there. Panic set in, and I ran back to the front of the store, ready to call the police. As I reached for the phone, the power went out, plunging the store into darkness. I fumbled for my flashlight, my hands shaking, and managed to turn it on. The beam of light revealed the hooded man standing at the end of the aisle, his face now visible. His eyes were wild, and a twisted smile spread across his face. He took a step towards me, and I bolted for the exit. I managed to unlock the doors and sprinted outside, not stopping until I reached my car. I called the police from the safety of my vehicle. They arrived quickly and searched the store, but there was no sign of the man. The security footage showed him entering the store, but never leaving. The police never found him, and the mystery of the late-night stalker was never solved. To this day, I can't explain what happened, but the memory of those haunting whispers and the hooded man still lingers. I worked the evening shift at a 24-hour grocery store, a job that usually involved dealing with late-night shoppers and restocking shelves. One particular night, however, was different. It was around midnight when a woman entered the store. She was dressed in old-fashioned clothing, her eyes downcast, and she seemed to glide rather than walk. I greeted her, but she didn't respond. She moved silently through the aisles, and something about her demeanor sent chills down my spine. I watched as she picked up a few items, a loaf of bread, some milk, and a packet of biscuits. But when she reached the checkout counter, she simply stood there, staring at me with vacant eyes. "Can I help you?" I asked, trying to sound calm. She said nothing, just placed the items on the counter and continued to stare. I rang up her purchases, but when I looked up, she had vanished. The items were still there, but the woman was gone. Confused, I checked the security footage. To my horror, the footage showed her entering the store and moving through the aisles, but then she simply disappeared. Determined to find an explanation, I asked my manager about it the next day. He paled and told me about a tragic incident that had occurred years ago. A woman fitting that description had been hit by a car just outside the store. She had come in to buy groceries for her children, but never made it home. Since then, there had been occasional sightings of her ghost, always appearing around midnight. The story sent shivers down my spine, but I tried to convince myself it was just a local legend. That was until the next night when once again the woman appeared. This time, she spoke. "Please, I need to get home to my children." Her voice was faint, almost a whisper filled with sorrow. I was frozen with fear, unsure of how to respond. She placed the same items on the counter and looked at me with pleading eyes. I rang up the purchases, and once again, she vanished before my eyes. After that, I refused to work the night shift. I couldn't shake the image of her sad, vacant eyes and her desperate plea. The phantom shopper continued to appear occasionally, always seeking to complete her unfinished journey. The memory of those encounters haunted me long after I left the job, a chilling reminder of the restless spirit still wandering the aisles. I had just started working at a grocery store that had been built on the outskirts of town. It was a large store with modern amenities, but there was something off about the cold storage area. The temperature was always much lower than necessary, and the air felt heavy and oppressive. One evening, as I was restocking the dairy section, my manager asked me to check on a delivery in the cold storage. Reluctantly, I made my way to the back of the store. The moment I entered the storage area, I felt a chill that went beyond the temperature. It was as if the cold was seeping into my very bones. As I checked the inventory, I heard faint footsteps behind me. Turning around, I saw no one. I resumed my work, but the feeling of being watched grew stronger. Suddenly, the door slammed shut, and I was plunged into darkness. Panic set in as I fumbled for the light switch, but it wouldn't turn on. The cold seemed to intensify, and I heard whispers all around me. The voices were indistinct, but filled with a sense of urgency and fear. I banged on the door, shouting for help, but the noise was swallowed by the oppressive cold. The temperature continued to drop, and I could see my breath forming in the air. Just when I thought I couldn't take it anymore, the lights flickered back on and the door swung open. I stumbled out, gasping for breath, and ran into my manager. He looked concerned and asked what had happened. When I told him, his face turned pale. He explained that the store had been built on the site of an old warehouse that had burned down years ago. During the fire, several workers had been trapped in the cold storage and had perished. Ever since then, strange occurrences had plagued that area. Workers reported feeling cold spots, hearing voices, and sometimes seeing shadowy figures. Determined to uncover the truth, I did some research and found newspaper articles about the fire. The accounts matched my manager's story. The workers had been trapped and died in the freezing cold, unable to escape the flames. Their spirits were said to haunt the site, reliving their final moments. I refused to go back into the cold storage alone after that night. The memory of the chilling whispers and the oppressive cold haunted me. The grocery store continued to operate, but the cold storage remained a place of fear and dread, a chilling reminder of the tragic past that refused to be forgotten.